Oh my God.
You have a visitor. May I present Miss Caroline Ellis? She works down at the hospice in New Orleans.
He can't talk at all?
Stroke pretty much paralyzed him. Happened about a month ago, up in the attic.
Take good care of my husband. Be good to his house. There are more than 30 rooms in all. For the owner, they made a skeleton key. This will open every door.
The key you gave me for the house, there's a door in the attic. It doesn't open.
That was their room. They were trying to conjure up hoodoo.
You know what hoodoo is? It's magic. Leave it alone.
I've seen the room.
No, child, you don't know what you've seen. You see him in the mirrors.
Can't expect me to believe that you see ghosts in your mirrors.
Whatever they did to him, I'm not gonna let them do it to me.
That brick does, how's it work?
Nobody that means you harm can cross it.
Help. Who are you afraid of? Tell me who you're afraid of.
You lay a line down. It's how you tell who your enemies are.
I suggest you leave that house. Can't hurt you if you don't believe.
We've been waiting for you, Caroline.
I don't believe. I don't believe. No, I don't believe. It's real. It's all real. Yeah. Yeah.
God bless America. You wanna free us, pay them teachers like they senators. I pray my brother see the king in his people. I pray my sister see the queen in her people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still pay my taxes, yet they pay us minimum wage. Buddha with that.
Permanent underclass in the society. One of the alarming predictions you make in the book is along those lines. You mention that blacks will be pretty much a permanent underclass in America by the year 2015. Why the year 2015? 2015 because what I've concluded from analysis is that there are going to be a converging of social factors nationally and internationally that's going to place blacks in a permanent status of underclassship. And we anticipate by that point in time, based on all the research that's coming to us, that the next generation of whites is going to be more anti-black than they've been since the civil rights movement. 2, we anticipate by the same token about 86 million Hispanics coming into the United States and about 41 million Asians by that point in time, which is going to kick black folk out of being the minority in the society down to a minority. We've been number 2 in the society for 400 years as a group. We're going to become number 4. And if we have not gotten anything after being number 2 for 400 years, you guess what's going to happen when we become number 4. Because at that point in time, all the new groups coming into America, They're coming in higher than we are because this country operates off of a preferential acceptance program, which means that groups are coming in based on skin color, going from the lightest down to the darkest. Light, yellow, brown, black. And that's what our immigration laws are based on. And black folk would not be able to penetrate through those groups to get to the white society when that happens, because those groups owe us nothing. They don't understand our problems, and they are competitive with us, and we don't begin to be a little more aggressive about being in a competitive posture. They're going to eat our lunches.
One of the things that I should... All right, let's deconstruct some American propaganda.
And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look at slavery, let's talk about the fact that
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
That's Jillian Michaels, the insufferable chick from The Biggest Loser. I've seen a number of thoughtful people make relevant critiques of her statement, but I want to add a piece to the conversation that I think is missing, because all of the critiques that I've seen have attempted to nuance that 2% number to show that that number is really misleading or just downright manipulative. Regardless of the percentage of white people that held slaves, the number that matters more to me is the fact that those white people enslaved 90% of black people in this country at the peak of slavery. So whether it was 2% of white people or 20% of white people, they enslaved 90% of black people. And the vast majority of white people at the time were completely okay with that. The North didn't fight the Civil War because they had so much compassion for black people. They did it to keep the Union together. Abraham Lincoln himself said, "I'm not concerned with the slaves, I'm concerned with keeping the Union together." He didn't care about freeing black people, he cared about the economy. And white Americans love to credit themselves with ending slavery without considering the aftermath of abolition. The country ended slavery and then criminalized being black. This is the reason the MAGA regime is trying to whitewash history. They don't want you to learn about the history of black codes and convict leasing and sharecropping. They don't want you to know that black people were promised reparations that they never received, but the white people that enslaved them were given reparations because they lost property. They don't want you to know that policing in America started as slave patrols. They don't want you to know that the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery had a clause or an exception for people who were convicted of a crime. And now, because of the prison industrial complex, we have the highest rate of imprisonment in the world, and they're providing slave labor for major corporations. They don't want you to know that when black people built communities, violent white mobs destroyed them and murdered people. They want you to think that white people in the North were so much better. But like Smoke said in Sinners, Chicago ain't nothing but Mississippi with tall buildings. Hell, I'm from California, and I experienced more overt racism there than I have in Georgia. So yeah, that 2% don't really mean much to me when 90% of black people were enslaved and produced all the cotton, which made up 60% of the country's exports at the time. And to this day, we got nothing to show for it. Why? Because of white rage.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. Please join us 2026, May 23rd and 24th for our third annual International New Orleans Voodoo Day, which promises an inspiring and immersive experience with a diverse lineup of engaging events. Highlights include an educational symposium featuring distinguished speakers from around the world, including a delegation of scholars and spiritual leaders from Benin and Haiti, as well as art exhibitions showcasing voodoo-inspired works by talented local and international artists. The event will also feature a children's program and an Afro-ecology exhibit exploring the sacred nature of plants in voodoo, their role in spiritual practices, and their connection to our ancestors. The weekend will culminate in a ceremonial procession to 9 significant sites throughout the city, locations where the enslaved were brought ashore, held, auctioned, and where they later found community and create and build culture. The journey will begin at the transatlantic slave route to New Orleans marker on the moonwalk just behind Jackson Square at the river, and conclude with a traditional voodoo ceremony at Congo Square. Additionally, visitors can participate in interactive workshops, community discussions, and opportunities to connect and participate with practitioners and cultural experts from around the world. This multifaceted celebration offers something for everyone, creating a meaningful space to honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the future. And we continue to invite you to join us for updates at www.vodouday.org. Again, join us for more information and updates about our organization and our events at www.vodouday.org. There's also a sponsorship platform there you may also be very well interested in. We're also thankful and appreciative of those of you who continue to support this 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday, weeknight podcast. Thank you so much for those who show up live to listen and participate in the chat. Greetings and salutations, Lydia Martin. We certainly appreciate you, as well as Daniel Neal, a member of our community. We certainly appreciate your continued love, support, and continued participation. I will unmute our co-host, Elder Reggie. We know on this platform as Green Soap, the leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth. My right-hand man, my armor bearer, my Black Hawk Voodoo Wild Man, and temple member as well of NOIVD and The Source, Joshua Nylan Tanner, temple member and member of NOIVD, The Source, and NOIVD, Bianca Johnson Plessy. The Queen Mother has not arrived, so I'm not sure if she's going to make it with us tonight, but we're certainly going to pick up in our narrative. We've been discussing really for the past few weeks the effects of the Nat Turner Rebellion on southeastern Virginia, as well as the effects on the South as a whole. But we've been speaking to revolution, revolts, uprisings, maroon encampments, literally since the inspiration for this new incarnation of this platform. We certainly appreciate the continued love and support in a time where Black history, African history, American history is being dissected, torn apart, rewritten, and diluted. The antebellum period refers to the decades prior to the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861. It was a period of tremendous economic growth for Louisiana and the nation. It was also an era of extreme violence and inequality. During this period, Louisiana's economic, social, political, and cultural makeup were shaped by the plantation system and the enslaved people upon which plantations relied. In 1795, on a French Creole plantation outside of New Orleans, Etienne de Bourret's enslaved workforce, laboring under the guidance of a skilled free Black chemist named Antoine Morin, produced Louisiana's first commercially successful crop of granulated sugar, demonstrating that sugarcane could be profitably grown in Louisiana. At roughly that same moment, American inventors were perfecting new mechanized cotton gins, the most famous of which was patented by Eli Whitley in 1794. These machines, which removed cottonseed from cotton fibers far faster than could be done by hand, dramatically increased the profitability of cotton farming, enabling large-scale cotton production in the Mississippi River Valley. The simultaneous introduction of these two cash crops, sugarcane and cotton, represented an economic revolution for Louisiana. Prospective planters flooded into the territory, carving its rich river-fed soils into sugar and cotton plantations. In 1803, Congress outlawed the international importation of enslaved people into the newly acquired Louisiana Purchase territory. While 4 years later, in 1808, Congress outlawed the transatlantic slave trade entirely. To provide labor for this emerging economic machine, slave traders began purchasing enslaved people from the Upper South, where demand for enslaved people was falling, and reselling them to the Lower South, where demand was soaring. By 1860, more than 124,000 enslaved Africans and African Americans had been carried to Louisiana by this domestic slave trade, destroying countless families while transforming New Orleans into the nation's largest slave market. Louisiana's enslaved population exploded from fewer than 20,000 enslaved individuals in 1795 to more than 168,000 in 1840 and more than 331,000 in 1860. By 1860, Louisiana produced about 1/16 of all the cotton and virtually all the sugar grown in the United States. Louisiana's more than 22,000 shareholders were among the wealthiest in the nation. Overall, the state boasted the second highest per capita wealth in the nation after Mississippi. And let's be mindful, Mississippi and Louisiana are now the number one and number two poorest states in the nation. But at this time, the second highest per capita wealth in the nation was Louisiana after Mississippi, based on slave labor. Sugar and cotton and the slave labor used to produce them defined Louisiana's economy, politics, and social structure. Sugarcane is a typical plant that requires ample moisture and a long, frost-free growing season. As such, it was only commercially grown in Louisiana's southernmost parishes, below Alexandria. Enslaved people planted the cane in January and early February. Spring and early summer were devoted to weeding. Throughout the year, enslaved people also maintained drainage canals and levees, cleared brush, spread fertilizer, cut and hauled timber, and repaired roads, harvested hay for livestock, grew their own foodstuff, and performed all other back-breaking tasks that enabled cash crop agriculture. In late summer and autumn, the entire plantation prepared for the most arduous stage of the annual cycle, the harvest and grinding season, when the raw sugar cane needed to be processed into granulated sugar or molasses before the first frost destroyed the entire crop. From mid-October to December, enslaved people worked day and night to cut the cane, feed it into the grinding mills, and boil the extract sugar juice into massive kettles over roaring furnaces. Once it crystallized, the granulated sugar was packed into massive wooden barrels known as hogsheads, each containing 1,000 or more pounds of sugar for transport to New Orleans. Then the cycle began again. Sugarcane cultivation was brutal, even by the standards of American slavery. Workplace accidents were common. Enslaved people were cut by cane knives, dragged into mills and crushed between the grinders, mauled by exploding boilers, or burned by boiling cane juice. It was a rare thing if a man lived more than 10 to 12 years of those who worked in the mill, one formerly enslaved person recalled. Conditions were so severe, whereas cotton and tobacco plantations sustained positive population growth, Death rates exceeded birth rates in Louisiana's sugar parishes. Enslaved women were simply too overworked, exhausted, and vulnerable to disease to bear healthy children. Sugar barons reaped such immense profits that they sustained this agricultural system by continuously purchasing more enslaved people, predominantly young men, to replace those who died. This dynamic created demographic imbalances in sugar country. There were relatively few children, and over two-thirds of the enslaved people were men. For slaveholders, sugar cultivation involved high cost and financial risk, but the potential for large profits. As such, the sugar parishes tend towards particularly massive plantations, large populations of enslaved people, and extreme contradictions of wealth. On the eve of the Civil War, the average Louisiana sugar plantation was valued at roughly $200,000 and yielded a 10% annual return. It held roughly 50 people in bondage compared to the national average plantation population, which was closer to 10. Slaveholders in the sugar parishes invested so much money in farm equipment. On average, Louisiana had the most expansive farms of any U.S. state. In 1860, Louisiana had 17,000 farms, of which only about 10% produced sugar. Yet those farms reported $19 million worth of agricultural equipment, more than $635 million in 2023 dollars. By comparison, Wisconsin's 70,000 farms reported less than 6 million. A small, tightly knit group of roughly 500 elite sugar barons dominated the entire industry. Their ranks included many of the nation's wealthiest slaveholders. John Burnside, Louisiana's richest planter, enslaved 753 people in Ascension Parish, another 107 people in St. James Parish. In 1860, his total estate was valued at $2,186,000, or roughly $78 million in 2023 dollars. 2 years ago, Mary Sterling, Louisiana's wealthiest woman, enslaved 338 people in Point Coupee Parish and another 127 in West Feliciana Parish. Her estate was valued at $590,500, roughly $21 million in today's dollars. In contrast to sugarcane, cotton production involved lower overhead costs, less financial risk, and more modest profits. The average Louisiana cotton plantation was valued at roughly $100,000, yielding a 7% annual return. Cotton flourished north of sugar country, particularly in the plains flanking the Red River and Mississippi River. Enslaved people planted cotton in March and April. Picking began in August and continued throughout the fall and early winter. During cotton picking season, slaveholders tasked the entire slave population, including young children, pregnant women, and the elderly, with harvesting the crop from sunrise to sundown. Cotton picking required dexterity, and skill levels ranged. Whereas the average enslaved Louisiana picked 150 pounds of cotton per day, highly skilled workers could pick as much as 400 pounds. After each haul was weighed and recorded, it was fed through the gin, giant screw presses compacting the cotton lint into 400-pound bales, which were shipped to New Orleans for export. And as I bring to a close this passage for today, I want to end with an introduction to plantation life and labor. On both sugar and cotton plantations, enslaved people endured regimented, factory-like conditions that used advanced management strategies to enforce ruthless efficiency. Field labor was typically organized into a gang system, with groups of enslaved people performing coordinated, monotonous work under the strict supervision of an overseer who maintained pace, rhythm, and synchronization. Large plantations often deployed multiple gangs. For example, one to drill holes for seeds, another to drop the seeds, a third gang to close the holes, working in succession like an assembly line. Large plantations also gave rise to enslaved specialists, enslaved foremen and drivers, and overseers who managed menial workers, as well as skilled artisans like blacksmiths, carpenters, coopers, and spinners. And then you add the whole complexity of color and classism and race and maroon culture to the mix, as Queen Mother Toni Val and Elder Reggie so eloquently introduced and explained on yesterday. New Orleans was quite a hot international port city of a mess. So as I bring our co-host in, Queen Mother Sister Toni Val Martinez, please unmute your mic. Elder Reggie, please unmute your mic. Joshua Nylan Tanner, please unmute your mic. And the beloved Bianca Johnson Plessy with that historic last name, please do unmute your mic. All is a blessing, greetings and salutations. Welcome again to the conversation.
Hello, everyone out there in the listening audience, the panel. How is everyone? Elder,
How's everyone? Everyone doing good out there?
that's good. Listening to what the Divine Prince was reading about, all the money that was made, all the slaves that was owned, all the wealth that was built that we didn't partake in, still haven't partaked in. And in the current climate of this country, it just had me in a bad spot right now. I mean, I'm so angry. I listened to a part of Charlie Kirk's so-called memorial when this speaker was up there speaking, and he was looking dead in the camera and he was saying, we did everything. You can't create anything. You didn't create anything. We made everything. And I'm wondering, who is he talking to? Because before Charlie Kirk, all the white people was together. Before Trump, all the white people was together. So who is he talking to? And honestly, he sounded like he was trying to send a message to people of color.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
So all of that has me just out of sorts.
I want to read something to you guys since you brought that up. It's an essay titled "A Testament of Hope" that was published after the death of Martin Luther King Jr. He asked why in this essay, why the issue of equality remained still so far from solution in a nation that professes itself to be a democratic, inventive, hospitable to new ideas, rich, productive, and to new ideas, rich, productive, and awesomely powerful. The only possible answer, he concluded in this essay, was that whites were deeply racist, and few had ever been willing to address racism seriously. And that's in an essay that was posted after Martin Luther King's death, called "A Testament of Hope." So this is just to piggyback off of what you're saying, like the reactions of these people and their obliviousness of where they are, one, and how they got here, two, three, who helped them and who continue to survive. I mean, especially like first getting here, the first colonials, they depended upon us to be able to, us as in people of color, including, let's go, the Africans and also the native people and the Maroons in the area, all the Indians that was here to survive, to eat, to provide medicine. They also came with diseases that killed a lot of those people. And these people, we are still here and we're still being merciful towards them. And they're still not giving credit where credit is due for our existence, our being, our civility, and our mercy.
I share, Brother Joshua.
It is
Good night, everyone. Yeah, good night, Divine Prince. Great topic. Sister Bianca, Mama, Sister Toni, great topic. And the collective audience. What was hitting me right now is last night Divine Prince read so eloquently. We dealt with what's called urban slavery, and tonight we tap in and on to what's called plantation slavery. And when you juxtapose the two, you see where slavery in both arenas was important. If you had cotton and if you had sugar plantations, they had to get those products down to the ships, because shipping was the number one means of transportation to get these products out to New Orleans and beyond. And so in New Orleans, you had urban slavery where there was slaves on the docks, loading the ships, unloading the ships, and doing a lot of stuff to support the movement of those products out of line. And I just thought that was a real good angle to see how they both worked in conjunction to get that product out to the general population so these slave owners can make all this wealth that was eloquently touched upon again. So there was a benefit for slavery. It just wasn't something to be doing out of the blue. It had a purpose, it had a cause, there was a benefit from it, and there has not been restitution paid back. That's what I wanted to add. Sister Bianca?
She may be away.
While we're waiting on Sister Bianca to come back.
Yeah, I'm here. I missed something. I had to step away. I may have missed something. What was the question?
It wasn't a question. We was waiting for Bianca to respond. But I was going to add a few kind of points that we need to kind of touch upon, I feel, because we talk about slavery, talk about domestic slavery here in America. When we speak of domestic things, we're talking about things in-house, like in-house, inland, not foreign. So we have to look at that from a point of view of who and what are they talking about, and what was being enslaved and who was being worked. And I'm looking at the census records of around 1830 and 1840 and 50s, and going through that and looking at the amount of Negro people are listed in these census records. And at that same time, like around 1830, that's when the Indian Removal Act was happening. At the same time where there was exiling Indians from out the Southeast, which is out of Mississippi, Louisiana, north or west of the Mississippi River. So out of the areas of Louisiana and Mississippi, and then to those designated areas that they was traveling to, and the population. And as I know anyway, and as I hope anyone else that's listening here, Indians, some of us left and some of us stayed. Some of us stayed and fought. Some of us stayed and decided to help and continue to live where we were, just like, you know, for an example, like any type of revolution or any type of war, you make a decision whether or not you're going to go to war or you're going to stay. And some people wanted to stay and fight. They didn't want to leave their land. And I know that the population, like during that time, like from the 1830s to the 1840s, it actually doubled in Mississippi in 1840. So in my mind, I'm just like, okay, the domestic slavery had already began. So I'm thinking in my mind, did the census numerators decide to just classify these people that decided to stay that were Indians and classify them as Negro just because they stayed and they didn't go down the Trail of Tears? Because I'm like, in terms of foreign enslavement and transport of slaves during that time, it wasn't that many coming in during that time in 1840. So it had to be the people that was here already that they was calculating into these records. And it's not just in Mississippi, it's across the board of all the states that was in existence around that time.
Well, I don't think reclassification would necessarily alter their DNA, but we certainly have records demonstrating the movement of and the capture and the stealing of bodies from the north and bringing them into the south. I think one of our markers on Voodoo Day acknowledges Solomon North and 12 years a slave. But we have documentation of them stealing people literally, as well as still selling slave populations from the north into the south to fill that gap.
I'm kind of off tonight, y'all. I'm just kind of frustrated with the current events and everything. So, y'all, please excuse me. I mean, it's just been one hell of a week. I mean, I can't believe we're still going through this in 2025, and it's about to go downhill and bring us back to 1825. You know, that's just ridiculous. And now,
Sister Toni, the guy named is Stephen Miller, the one.
Oh yeah, the one who did the wonderful speech that he was just talking to the camera. Like, I'm like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Who are you talking about? Like, the same night that Charlie Kirk got unalived, there was a huge crowd of white males. White men fight back. White men fight back. Who you fighting? I mean, who you fighting? Each other? I mean, it's just like Civil War going down all over again. I saw, right before this, I saw a white guy on TikTok calling for Trump to call a civil war. He was ready to die for this country. Trump, you need to call a civil war. Now, is another video of him coming back apologizing. Somebody doxed him and put all his information out online. He had to send his family away. Now he's scared. Now he apologizing. We got ways to fight back, and we know people that can do these things to make them have a second thought about what they saying and doing. Just like with the Jimmy Kimmel. Them YT people showed NBC and Disney what they meant. And you see he back on air. And they need to do
it
more
might
of
be
that.
because it was due to like losing our money, because I know that Kim show they were saying that like they had a heart-to-heart conversation with him. But I think it was more of because they knew that they was losing money with everybody canceling their subscription and stuff. So they had to figure out a way how to bring it on there.
Yeah, they
Do you
gave that
think it might
little.
be due to that?
No, they gave that little bullshit media release. Oh yeah, we had a talk with Jimmy Kimmel and it's all good. No, they never gonna come out and say, because we lost your dollars, we changed our mind, because that would make it seem like anybody who want to protest, all they got to do is take the dollars. All the protesting we've been doing about boycotting, I think this time right here really made it fly home, because they lost so much money so quickly in a matter of days. But they're never going to say that. They paid Trump off some money. Kimmel didn't apologize. And now he back on. And we might not see him in New Orleans because some affiliates still not showing him. And what they're going to do is they're going to boycott them and the people who buy commercial space to them. And eventually they'll give in. So, it got to be more of that. But I'm just proud of these young Black people on TikTok, these young Black males who really on the web, who can do this doxing and hit up a racist where it hurt. You about to lose your job. Everybody gonna know where you live. I know where you live. I got your Social Security number. And I mean, they doing the thing. And that's what we need to do more of.
And we must admit the modern version of boycott via the social media and the internet has been very effective. Target is still trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Is
But
Target
to me,
still taking the loss?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah. And then they showed a video. Somebody went to Disneyland and had a video, and it was almost empty. Whatever that is in Florida, Disneyland. I know they got land and world and sea and all this here, but the one in Florida, they went to over the weekend, on a weekend day, on a Saturday, and it was almost empty. And they was doing a panoramic view, and I was just happy. But now we see what we can do rather than hitting the streets, because I am definitely against Black people joining any protest marches, because they just waiting for a reason to send in the armor and call martial law. They've been trying to bait us into the street ever since they started protesting. And they got some people say, well, you can protest.
Sister Toni,
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Elder Reggie.
Yeah, with Stephen Miller. You see, he's one of the architects of that Project 2025. When President Trump come in with all that DEI, bringing in Doge with Elon Musk, all this was the brainchild of Stephen Miller. He is almost like a shadow government within a government. What position do we actually hold? We don't know. But he speaks from a platform of power. He speak dog whistle to certain people. And the target audience he was speaking to is Black people. Yeah, some people of color may be involved with that, but he's mainly speaking to Black people. When he say we built this country, you basically, because some Blacks do say we built this country, and we did. We put our 2 cents in to make this country what it is. But Stephen Miller took all that off the table Sunday night with that hateful speech that he pulled. And we got to keep, he is a dangerous individual right now. And that's what I wanted to add.
I wouldn't say he's dangerous.
Saying, Sister Toni.
He's definitely weaponizing his words, but he's definitely, what he's doing, he's trying to distract us. And I must say that we can't be distracted right now. We must be forthright in what we've been doing before all this stuff happened. Like
Stephen Miller.
Continue to have conversations, because that's a war tactic. He's trying to distract us and get us out of what we've been doing and what we've been focusing on. Because whatever we've been doing has been working.
Stephen
I think a
Miller.
lot, like you said, and like a lot of it's like when they was doing, like we were talking about, it's more of like intimidating us, and a lot of stuff that's going on, it kind of recognized, kind of remind me of some things that they talked about in school with the whole Hitler, like the whole Hitler and the plan and the dictatorship and taking over and trying to use different terms and terminology to put fear and intimidate us, so that they can gain control by having us being scared and bow down. But like he said, that if we stay focused, then we can be able to fight back and not be so intimidated and angered by the words that they tell us.
Stephen Miller's part in the shadow government, he's in education. That's his responsibility, education. And the Department of Education, McMahon, the wrestler wife, who's head of that, and Stephen Miller, they done wrote up some stuff that's going to be implemented in 2026. Teachers are going to have to take a pledge allegiance to Donald Trump regime, that they only going to teach the prescribed syllabus like in apartheid South Africa. And that's how they will get their teaching license. If you don't pledge, you will not get your license. Also in that, I posted the whole thing on my page. I went in and dug up the
License
plans.
to do what, though?
License to teach.
A license to teach what?
What they tell you to teach.
Who wants to teach that?
Well, if they want a job, and they got buku Trumpsters that want to do that.
I hear you, but I'm just saying, I'm just trying to think about this in a practical sense, in a logical sense.
You can't think of it in a practical sense, because you're dealing with people that have no sense.
No, of course I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, in terms if they're gonna require teachers to be licensed to practice and to teach these students whatever they want them to be taught, which is not our history, they can have that. They're gonna have to find somebody. They're gonna have to go across the seas and find some teachers to come in here and teach.
No,
students.
they don't.
The teachers should protest.
Okay, that's another thing you should read. They just passed a law that if you go against them and protest against them, be filming the police, stopping ICE, you will be arrested as a terrorist, and they will charge you with being a part of this fictitious group that they want to label Antifa.
What was that?
So, back to the teaching and the education department with Stephen Miller. Every they're gonna be taught to be perfect patriots. That's quoting from their plan, perfect patriots. In high school, every high school student will get military training. Not the ROTC, not voluntary, mandatory. Mandatory. They're going to outlaw. They're going to outlaw homeschooling. They're going to outlaw homeschooling. And we already know it's illegal for your child not to be in school from a certain age to a certain age. They playing Hitler playbook play by play. Play by play. People say, well, who was Charlie Kirk? I never heard of Charlie Kirk.
Sister Toni, you're right.
Charlie Kirk was.
No, go ahead, Sister Toni. I just was just acknowledge.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Charlie Kirk played a highly pivotal role in the Trump regime. He was one of the top men because he was the recruiter. It was his job to go out and get new blood recruited into MAGA, whatever you want to call it. I call them maggots. That's why he stayed on college campuses. They need those votes, though. They need those new votes for the midterms in 2026. And Charlie Kirk did more for the regime unalive than he could have done alive. Because it's no way between this November and next November, he could have got over 100,000 people to join like they have done in a week. And now his wife is the new first lady, if y'all pay attention. Because Melania really don't want to have nothing to do with the presidency. But they bumping up Mrs. Kirk to run for the next vice president in 2028. And that stuff is all written down. And if you don't like to read, well, you won't know what's going on. But I'm a watcher. I watch. I dig. I report. But nobody listening. But I still keep doing it. It's my job. It's my destiny. It's what I was put here to do. But our time has really ran out.
I see.
And I want to turn it over to Elder Reggie to close us out.
Thank you, Sister Toni. Oh, you just right now I'm full because you really bringing some real good dynamics to the conversation and the current events, and I appreciate that. I appreciate Divine Principal even hosting the platform, and Brother Joshua, good wisdom, Sister Bianca coming in strong. In our chat, I stay busy. I'm in the group, but I'm also just reading the chat, and I appreciate their contributions too. But as Joshua always say, we got to find a way to pull it together as a collective. With that I say, lest we forget, the spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that bind the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. We have to heal the social division. We have to. With that, I say ashe, ashe, ashe. Good night, everyone. We love you all.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Bianca. Good night, Prince. Good night, Josh. Good night, Elder. See you tomorrow.
Good night, you all.
Odabo.
I can't tell you how dangerous that is. And what you're opening yourself up to. Losing everything.
At the beginning of this, maybe I was more skeptical. As the days have gone on, I'm not sure what I think anymore.
I felt that maybe it wouldn't affect me if I personally didn't believe in it.
So, knowing what you know now, would you still get cursed?
I'm seeking out a curse, a hex to put on myself.
A curse could end your life. You're literally begging the devil to knock on your door just to prove to you that God's real.
He could curse you with stupidity, but we think you've got that down.
Despite the warnings, I'm investigating the real-world effects of dark magic.
Looks like you have a lot of love and a lot of opportunity. You are going to cause damage to that.
How do you feel after doing this?
Evil.
That must be quite seductive.
That's the power you're calling on. The devil, right? Quite seductive.
I'm going to enter into a pact with Satan.
Señor Satán, Lucifer, presentamos a este hermano. Con tu fuego purifica.
Wyong is pretty much the epicenter of all black magic. People are very scared to even talk about it.
Y'all better not call me at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about this man is dead. I don't want to hear that.
I have this physical feeling that something bad is coming. What have I done?
You're going to have to find faith in this in order to undo it.